I hope there's sound now on YouTube. If there's not sound on YouTube, then we'll have to go onto Facebook. Okay, is there still is there sound now on YouTube? Oh, you can hear me now. Very good, thank you, thank you. Okay, I'll continue my Mangalacharya. Yam prabhajanta manapetyam apetikriyam dvaipaino viraha katara ajuhava putreti tammaya tayo taravo benedustam sarvabhutam hridim munimanatoshmi bhaktiya vihina aparada lakshay shiptascha karmadi tarangamadye kripa maitvam sharanam prapana prinde namaste charanarvindam Ajami radam aravinda netram smarami radam madurashmitasyam vadami radam karuna bharatram tato mamanasti katina kapi tavaivasmi najivami tvaivina iti vignaya radhe tvam naimam charantikam. I'm first of all offering millions of Dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of my most beloved Gurudev, Nitya-lila, Pravishta Om, Asto Tarsara Shishimad, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. I'm offering the same again millions of times unto the lotus feet of our dearmost Nitya-lila Pravishta Om Astol Tarsara Shishimad Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And also I'm offering my full prostrated Dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of our dearmost Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, who has given us this remarkable granta for our relish. So today we start on the 4th chapter, which originally is what I just wanted to speak on, but I'm very happy that we've been through the previous 3 chapters to build a proper, deep honor and respect for this subject matter. Just like in the first 9 cantos of our Bhagavatam, we build up a full appreciation of that Supreme Lord Krishna in those first 9 cantos, preparing the heart for the intimacy of Madhurya in the 10th canto. So simultaneously, this 4th chapter is described as the confidential reasons for Mahaprabhu's appearance. So in the previous chapter, this was described as the external reasons. We described 2 external reasons in this chapter. The chapter is titled External Reasons. Try to hear me clearly and simply. I'm going to explain something here, and I hope that people don't come too much bewildered by it. So Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he writes in 3rd chapter that the Lord appeared because of the loud calling of Advaita Acharya. And this is considered, it's saying here in the 110th verse, therefore the principal reason for Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu's descent in this is this appeal by Advaita Acharya. The Lord, the protector of religion, appears by the desire of his devotee. So this is in the chapter titled External Reasons. So you can consider this to be an external reason that he appears to answer the call of Advaita Acharya. And also in this 3rd chapter, it's described that the chanting of the Hare Krishna is also considered an external reason. But my Srila Gurudev, he describes a different description of these reasons. The principal first reason is the same that my Gurudev describes and Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami describes, and that's Krishna himself wants to taste his own prem. This is what's going to be described in this 4th chapter. Krishna wants to taste his own prem. That's always the principal reason for Mahaprabhu's advent. The principal reason is not because of the loud calling of Advaita Acharya. This is either called a secondary reason or it's called an external reason. That chapter we've just read is titled The External Reasons for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Descent. So the calling of Advaita Acharya can either be termed as a secondary reason or as an external reason. If we're going to describe it as a secondary internal reason, internal means what does Krishna, how does it relate to Krishna directly? Then it relates to Krishna to taste his own prem, that's the first reason. And then the secondary reason was to answer, himself wants to answer the call of Advaita Acharya. So this can be called the secondary internal reason. We can have the enumeration like that. So my Gurudev has described a speciality in his listing of these reasons. And it's not, don't become confused and think one is right and one is wrong. If you're thinking like that, then you are wrong. Both are absolutely 100% correct. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is describing that the two principal reasons for Mahaprabhu's advent was to taste his own prem and was to give this manjari bhav to the jivas. And this is described in the verse, Anapita Chirim Chirat. The second line, he's come to taste this Swabhakti Shriyam, this Unnata Ujjvala Ras, is what Mahaprabhu himself has come to taste. And he's come to bestow upon the jiva this Swabhakti Shriyam, which is service to his own principal bhakti, which is Sri Radhika. So we'll describe this more as we go along. But there might be some confusion thinking, oh, that there's different descriptions of the way that the reasons are mapped out, so to speak. Yes, they are different. And it's to give us a deeper insight into the moods of Sachinandan Gaurahari. But don't ever think that one is right and one is wrong. If you're thinking like this, then you are wrong completely. Both are utterly correct. Utterly correct. But with a different perspective, we can perceive it in a different way that my Gurudev has given. I hope people are understanding what I'm trying to explain here. Krishnadas Kaviraj has given us the internal reasons as Mahaprabhu to taste his own prem and to give this Unnata Ujjvala, the Swabhakti Shriyam, to the jiva. These two internal reasons. My Gurudev has described the two internal reasons as tasting his prem and answering the call of Advaita Acharya, and both are utterly correct. So a mature devotee can very simply reconcile this. It's not up for argumentation or something like that. When devotees start to argue about tattva, they can debate about tattva, discuss tattva, but to argue puts it straight on the false ego platform. My Gurudev's right. No, my Gurudev said this. No, this said it. This is all absurd. And we shouldn't conduct our lives in such a debased type of a way. We should have honor for the Shastras and understanding that the Mahabhagavats are never wrong. My Gurudev is not wrong. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is not wrong. He's presenting the reasons in a different priority. That's all. There's a different perspective on it. So we've had two external reasons already described in this third chapter. To answer the call of Advaita Acharya is external. And to give the holy name is also external. And now we're going to go into the remarkable internal, confidential reasons. As we go through, I will explain this point again further if people haven't properly grasped what I'm saying. But there's many instances of where the acharyas, they give different perspectives on the same topics. Like, for example, if you read the first verse of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's description of Srimad Bhagavatam. He gives 5 explanations in the first verse of the first canto about what is the Bhagavatam going to, what is it going to unfold. And my Gurudev also gives a different 5 explanations of how the Bhagavatam is going to unfold. They're both entirely correct. And having these 2 options gives us an opportunity to go deeper into the subject matter. This is all. So reconcile, if this point does come up, because somebody was questioning me today, because in our paper that we posted yesterday, we're saying that we're talking about the internal reasons and the second internal reason. This document that we put around was the loud calling of Advaita Acharya. But Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he doesn't give it in that same way. He says that the secondary internal reason of Mahaprabhu was to bestow upon the jiva this Swabhakti Shriyam. So we'll come to this in more detail when we come to these particular verses in a moment. But I hope I've explained that to some degree clearly. And if I haven't, I'm happy to explain it many times until people are quite sure about it, because I've discussed this point many times. So chapter 4, the confidential reasons. The confidential, another word for confidential is internal. Confidential means private, internal, confidential. So this chapter could be also titled the internal reasons. So we've had the external reasons and now the internal reasons. So my Gurudev is explaining a little bit differently, but it's the same principle. In this chapter of the epic Caitanya Caritamrta, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami has stressed that Lord Chaitanya appeared for 3 principal purposes of his own. So now, first of all, try to understand there are 4 reasons for Mahaprabhu's descent. There's to taste his own prem and to bestow upon the jiva Swabhakti Shriyam, that Manjari Bhav, to answer the call of Advaita Acharya, and to distribute the holy name. These are the 4 reasons for Mahaprabhu's advent. And then there are also 3 internal reasons, or 3 desires, it's better to say, that Mahaprabhu wanted to fulfill. And this is what Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada is describing here now, these 3 desires. Not the 3 reasons for the 4 reasons for his appearance. These are his 3 internal desires. So altogether there's 4 plus 3, that makes 7 reasons for his appearance. Make a distinction here. 4 reasons for his appearance and 3 desires the Lord has. I hope it's clear with everybody. If it's not clear, it'll become clear in time. The first purpose was to relish the position of Srimati Radharani. These are his 3 desires that are going to be explained. Shri Radhaya Pranaya Mahima Kitri Shovanaiva, this verse. The first purpose was to relish the position of Srimati Radharani, who is the prime reciprocator of transcendental love of Sri Krishna. In other words, the Ashraya we've described before. Lord Krishna is the reservoir of transcendental loving transactions with Srimati Radharani. The subject of those loving transactions is the Lord himself. The Lord is the Vishaya, the subject. And Radharani is the object, the Ashraya. She's tasting the subject. Thus, the subject, the Lord, wanted to relish the loving mellow in the position of the object, Radharani. The second reason for his appearance was to understand the transcendental mellow of himself. Lord Krishna is all sweetness. Radharani's attraction for Krishna is sublime, and to experience that attraction and understand the transcendental sweetness of himself, he accepted the mentality of Radharani. The third reason that Lord Chaitanya appeared was to enjoy the bliss tasted by Radharani. The Lord thought that undoubtedly Radharani enjoyed his company, and he enjoyed the company of Radharani, but the exchange of transcendental mellow between the spiritual couple was more pleasing to Srimati Radharani than to Krishna. We've explained before the beautiful analogy of the sugar. The sugar can't taste itself, but the taster, the ashraya, it can taste the sugar. The subject can taste the sugar. The subject is Radharani in this case. The object is Krishna, the Vishaya. So, if we think of that analogy, it becomes very simple. I can remember when we first heard this, or I first heard this explained in '97 in Australia. Srila Gurudev my Gurudev was explaining this point, and I'd been in ISKCON for about more than 20 years, and I'd never heard this philosophy explained in this way before. I had just been hearing about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but I hadn't really considered the deep reasons for his descent. It hadn't even occurred to me. So when I heard this explanation, it was really mind-blowing to me. And most of those devotees that were there also, it was also completely mind-blowing for all of them, senior devotees. Shamrani was amongst them, Ashram Maharaj, these two people were there. Thus, the second reason for his appearance was to understand the transcendental mellow of himself. Lord Krishna is all sweetness. Radharani's attraction for Krishna is sublime, and to experience that attraction and understand the transcendental sweetness of himself, he accepted the mentality of Radharani, fully immersed. The third reason that Lord Chaitanya appeared was to enjoy the bliss tasted by Radharani. The Lord thought that undoubtedly Radharani enjoyed his company, and he enjoyed the company of Radharani, but the exchange of transcendental mellow between the spiritual couple was more pleasing to Srimati Radharani than to Sri Krishna. Radharani felt more transcendental pleasure in the company of Krishna than he could understand without taking her position. But for Sri Krishna to enjoy in the position of Srimati Radharani was impossible, because that position was completely foreign to him. Krishna is the transcendental male, and Radharani is the transcendental female. Therefore, to know the transcendental pleasure of loving Krishna, Lord Krishna himself appeared as Lord Chaitanya, accepting the emotions and bodily luster of Srimati Radharani. So we've explained a number of times that when Krishna is manifesting his Vrindavan Lila, he's experiencing the stage known as Mahabhav. But Sri Radhika is experiencing two stages higher than that. This Ruda and Adi-Ruda, and then ultimately Madanakya Mahabhav is the stage that Srimati Radhika experiences. Krishna cannot experience that because he's not tasting the sweetness of himself that Sri Radhika does to achieve that highest excellence of bliss. So Krishna wants to taste that highest excellence of bliss, and he can only do that by, in a way, becoming Radhika. When he takes her bhav means her mood. That means, practically speaking, he becomes her. He's always black Krishna inside, but externally he's taken her bodily beautiful color of molten gold. We've already discussed that in the third chapter, but in this chapter we're going to describe that bhav, that mood that he actually takes from Sri Radhika to experience the sweetness of himself. This is what he wants to experience. Lord Chaitanya appeared in order to fulfill these confidential desires. This is confidential, internal, and also to preach the special significance of chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, and to answer the call of Advaita Acharya. These were secondary reasons. Answering the call of Advaita Acharya was secondary, and chanting Hare Krishna is secondary. This is Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami's order of significance. My Gurudev gives a different order, but it's the same principle. If you're understanding deeply, you'll appreciate there's no difference. And it's nothing to argue about. If you argue, it means you haven't understood. Sri Swarup Damodar Goswami was the principal figure among Lord Chaitanya's confidential devotees. The records of his diary have revealed these, because if you argue, it means you're trying to substantiate that one person, Krishnadas Kaviraj, is correct and my Gurudev is incorrect, or my Gurudev is correct and Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj is incorrect. So an intelligent devotee has to reconcile these two arrangements, how they've presented these truths, and they're both beautiful. These revelations have been confirmed by the statements of Srila Rupa Goswami in his various prayers and poems. This chapter also specifically describes the difference between lust and love. The transactions of Krishna and Radha are completely different from material lust. Therefore, the author has very clearly distinguished between them. So this is Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada's introduction to this chapter. Now we start text 1 of Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami's magnificent Caitanya Caritamrta. Sri Chaitanya Prasadena Tadrupasya Vinirnayam Balopi Kuryate Shastram Dristva Vraja Vilasinaha. By the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, even a foolish child can fully describe the real nature of Lord Krishna, the enjoyer of the pastimes of Braj, according to the vision of the revealed scriptures. It's not a difficult thing. It's only difficult when we have our own agendas we want to put on top of the words of Shastra. Purport. One can ascertain the meaning of this Sanskrit shlok only when one is endowed with the causeless mercy of Lord Chaitanya. Lord Sri Krishna, being the absolute personality of Godhead, cannot be exposed to mundane instruments of vision. He reserves the right not to be exposed by the intellectual feats of non-devotees. Notwithstanding this truth, even a small child can easily understand Lord Sri Krishna and his transcendental pastimes in the land of Vrindavan by the grace of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is the whole point. Mahaprabhu wants to carry us into that Brajadam, that Brajaras. He wants to carry us into the pastimes that Krishna performed 5,000 years ago. He's going to do it. He's going to give us this gift, this Swabhakti Shriyam. He will give the jiva this gift. Even a child can actually receive this gift. Text 2. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. All glory to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all glory to Lord Nityananda, all glory to Sri Advaita Acharya, and all glory to all the devotees of Lord Chaitanya. Text 3. Chatruta Shlokera Artha Kaile Vivarana Panchama Shlokera Artha Suna Bhakta Gana. I have described the meaning of the 4th verse. Now, O devotees, kindly hear the explanation of the 5th verse. Text 4. Mula Shlokare Artha Karite Prakash Artha Lagaite Arge Kahiya Abash. Just to explain the original verse, I shall suggest its meaning. Chaturtha Shloker Artha E Kaila Sara Premanam Prachirte E Avatar. I have given the essential meaning of the 4th verse. This incarnation, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, descends to propagate the chanting of the holy name and spread love of God. Text 6. Satya e hetu kintu eho bahiranga. Ara eka hetu suna ache antaranga. Translation. Although this is true, this is but the external reason for the Lord's incarnation. Please hear one other reason, the confidential reason for the Lord's appearance. So he's carrying us now from the path of Vaidhi Bhakti into the path of Rag Anuga Bhakti. It's a transition. It's a very deep subject matter that Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, by his mercy, is going to reveal. Purport. In the 3rd chapter, 4th verse, it has been clearly said that Lord Chaitanya appeared in order to distribute love of God and the chanting of his transcendental holy name, Hare Krishna. That was the secondary purpose of Lord Chaitanya's appearance. The real reason is different, as we shall see in this chapter. So there's a gradation of reasons. This is why I spoke previously about the different emphasis that my Gurudev puts on this and Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj puts on it. Ultimately, they're both the same. There's just a deeper perception of Krishna when we consider my Gurudev's enumeration of these points. That's all. Because he's referring to his Krishna's internal desire to taste his own prem and to answer the call of Advaita Acharya. That's what he's considering my Gurudev as internal. But Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj considers it's internal to distribute this Manjari Bhav. So it's just a different focus, but it's the same principle. Text 7. Purveyena pritivira bara habira bare Krishna avatirana hoile shastrete prachare. Translation. The scriptures proclaim that Lord Krishna previously descended to take away the burden of the earth. Yada yada hidaramasya. We've discussed this in the 3rd chapter. So many things we've already discussed. How packed is this Caitanya Caritamrta with amazing truths. Text 8. Swayam Bhagavanera karma nahe bara harana stiti karta Vishnu karana jagata palana. To take away the burden, however, is not the work of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The maintainer, Lord Vishnu, is the one who protects the universe. Krishna doesn't have to do that work. Not Swayam Bhagavan, not Brajendranandan Sham Sundar. Vishnu will do that work. Text 9. Kintu Krishnara Yahaya Avatara Kala Baraharana Kala Tate Haila Mishala. Translation. But the time to lift the burden of the world mixed with the time for Lord Krishna's incarnation. The Lord was planning to come in this Kali Yuga, and by the loud calls of Mahaprabhu, he came of Advaita Acharya, he came earlier, in fact. Purport. We have information from the Bhagavad Gita that the Lord appears at particular intervals to adjust a time-worn spiritual culture. Lord Sri Krishna appeared at the end of Dwapara Yuga to regenerate the spiritual culture of human society and also to manifest his transcendental pastimes. So he arranges for the Mahabharata war to annihilate all the warring armies on the face of the planet and to usher in a new era, which actually is Kali Yuga, but without these warring armies, and also to perform his own Leela in Vrindavan. But no one understood his Leelas at that time. It was very confidential. But Krishna is coming again as Mahaprabhu to explain those Leelas to us. Vishnu is the authorized Lord who maintains and the created cosmos, He is also the principal deity who makes adjustments when there is improper administration in the cosmic creation. But Sri Krishna, being the primeval Lord, appears not in order to make such administrative administrative adjustments, but only to exhibit his transcendental pastimes and thus attract the fallen souls back home, back to Godhead. Yes. One person was asking, how can we go back to Godhead if we've never been back to Godhead? The point is that is our eternal home, but we've forgotten it. When we remember that, we will be in our original place, which is back to home, back to Godhead. However, the time for administrative rectification and the time for Lord Sri Krishna's appearance coincided at the end of the last Dwapara Yuga. Therefore, when Lord Krishna appeared, Vishnu, the Lord of maintenance, merged with him, because all the plenary portions and parts of the absolute personality of Godhead merge with him during his appearance. We've already described that the Kalki avatar, for example, will not actually appear in this particular Kali Yuga. In 999 Kali Yugas, Kalki appears at the end of Kali Yuga. But in this Kali Yuga, he already has appeared in the body of Caitanya Mahaprabhu. And this is the praman, that all personalities will merge with him during his appearance. Understand these. Because people, if you mention these things to other people, they will want to have proof, and you have to be able to show them these pramans. So text 10. Purna Bhagavan Avatare Ye Kale Arasabha Avatare Tantra Ashimile. Translation. When the complete Supreme Personality of Godhead descends, all other incarnations of the Lord meet together within him. Again, the same principle. Text 11 and 12. Narayan Chaturvyuha Matsyadi Avatar Yuga Manvantar Avatar Yata Ache Ara Sabe Ashi Krishna Anges Haya Avatirna Aiche Avatare Krishna Bhagavan Purna. Lord Narayan, the four primary expansions, Vasudeva, Sankarshan, Pradumna, and Aniruddha, Matsya and the other Lila incarnations, the Yuga avatars, the Manvantaras incarnations, and as many other incarnations as there are, all descend in the body of Lord Krishna. In this way, the complete Supreme Godhead, Lord Krishna himself, appears. Again, this is powerful praman from Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, explaining how Mahaprabhu is that Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 13. Attaiva Vishnu Takani Krishna Re Sarire Vishnu Dvare Kare Krishna Asura Sambare. Translation. At that time, therefore, Lord Vishnu is present in the body of Lord Krishna, and Lord Krishna kills the demons through him, just like we understand that Lord Narayan is manifested in Mathura, or that Vishnu aspect is manifested in Mathura. And then when he's taken across the river, Jamuna, at night by Vasudeva and placed on the bed of Mother Yashoda, that Lord Narayan merges into the body of Brajendranandan Shyam Sundar. Or Vishnu merges into the body of Brajendranandan Shyam Sundar. Because it's not Brajendranandan who's killing all these demons. It's that Vishnu aspect within him that kills the demons. This is how all acharyas explain this. Text 14. Anusanga karma e asura marana e lage avatara kahise malakarana. Thus the killing of the demons is but secondary work. I shall now speak of the main reason for the Lord's incarnation. In other words, what we've discussed previously was not the principal teaching, it was the external reasons. This was chapter 3, the external reasons. Now these are the principal internal reasons. Text 15 and 16. Prem ras niryase korite ashwaran Ragmag Bhakti Loke Korite Pracharan Rasika Shikara Krishna Parama Karuna Edui Heto Hoite Ichara Udgama. This is the principal reason, that he wants to taste his own prem. If anyone is asking you why does Mahaprabhu Advent, it's not to give the holy name. That is a secondary reason. And it's a secondary reason also to answer the call of Advaita Acharya. The principal reason for Mahaprabhu's Advent is to taste his own prem. This is the principal reason. If you remember this one point, then it's successful. Translation. The Lord's desire to appear was born from two reasons. The Lord wanted to taste the sweet essence of the mellows of love of God, and he wanted to propagate devotional service in the world on the platform of spontaneous attraction. Thus, he is known as supremely jubilant and as the most merciful of all. So we have the verse, Anapita chirim chirat kurunavatinokalo samarapaitam unnata ujvala ras. This is what Mahaprabhu has come to taste. This was the inspiration for Mahaprabhu to answer the call of Advaita Acharya originally. He wanted to taste that prem of Srimati Radhika, that she was tasting, that higher prem than his. This was the principal reason. Thus he is known as supremely jubilant and the most merciful of all. Purport. During the period of Lord Krishna's appearance, the killing of asuras or non-believers such as Kamsa and Jarasandha was borne by Vishnu, who was within the person of Lord Krishna. Such apparent killing by Lord Sri Krishna took place as a matter of course and was an incidental activity for him. His principal desire was the leelas that he performed in Vrindavan. These were all naimitic activities of the Lord, naimitic leela. The Nitya Leela was just in Vrindavan. But the real purpose of Lord Krishna's appearance was to stage a dramatic performance of his transcendental pastimes in Brajabhumi, thus exhibiting the highest limit of transcendental mellow in the exchanges of reciprocal love between the living entities and the Supreme Lord. These reciprocal exchanges of mellows are called Rag Bhakti, or devotional service to the Lord, in transcendental rapture. This is Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada is writing these words very clearly. If anyone thinks this, because these teachings seem to have become clouded in the society that he established, because they're just taking the external aspect of Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, doing book distribution, building temples, etc., making devotees. This has become their principal focus, rather than the internal focus. Lord Sri Krishna wants to make known to all the conditioned souls that he is more attracted to Rag Bhakti than Vaidhi Bhakti, or devotional service under scheduled regulations. It is said in the Vedas, Taittiriya Upanishad 2.7, Raso Vaisaha, the absolute truth is the reservoir of all kinds of reciprocal exchanges of loving sentiments. He is also causelessly merciful, and he wants to bestow upon us this privilege of Rag Bhakti. So my Gurudev explains, this is called Rag Pravriti Vaidhi Bhakti. We are performing our focus on Rag, that is the Pravriti, that is the principal focus, but we're externally, carefully following this Vaidhi path, Vaidhi Marg. Rag Pravriti, Vaidhi Marg. This is how it's presented. We are internally developing our attraction to Krishna in Vrindavan. But externally, we are very carefully following the rules and regulations of Vaidhi Bhakti. So it's Rag Pravriti. That's the principal focus. Then Vaidhi Bhakti, Vaidhi Marg. We're following this Vaidhi externally. Thus he appeared by his own internal energy. He was not forced to appear by any extraneous force. No one appealed to him except Advaita Acharya. Now, this next verse is interesting. This is text 17. Aishwarya janate sabha jagata mishrita Aishwara stitili prema nahi mora prita. This verse is exactly the same verse as verse 16 in the previous chapter. It's exactly the same verse. They have a different translation, and both are completely valid. I'll read you this translation from chapter 4 first. Shri Krishna thought, all the universe is filled with the conception of my majesty, but love weakened by that sense of majesty does not satisfy me. We just have to realize this particular point. And it's saying exactly the same in the third chapter. Same Bengali verse, and then the translation is, knowing my opulences, the whole world looks upon me with awe and veneration, but devotion made feeble by such reverence does not attract me. These are both the same verses he's quoting. So twice he's saying the same point, that this Aishwarya Bhav doesn't attract him. If we're building big temples and doing huge preaching engagements, etc., that's wonderful, so long as we're balancing it with huge internal revelations and practices. If that is going on, then there's all success. But if that is not being prominently encouraged, then the purpose of Mahaprabhu's descent has not been followed. You understand? Is it clear? Text 18. Amare Ishvara mane apana kahina tara prema vasa amina khai adina. If one regards me as the Supreme Lord and himself as a subordinate, I do not become subservient to his love, nor can it control me. So how can we pick up these very esoteric teachings? How is it possible for us to understand these esoteric teachings? As I said before, when I first heard my Gurudev speak this chapter in Mawulambar in 1997, I was just amazed, because my Gurudev is a Mahabhagavat. And when he explains these things, I understood exactly what Mahaprabhu's mission was about. Previously, I hadn't heard, even though it's written here very clearly, I hadn't personally understood it, because a Mahabhagavat hadn't explained it to me. So without this higher association, how are we ever going to understand these scriptures? We'll just gloss through various parts that we don't want to confront or don't want to meditate on. We'll leave them behind. The principal reason for Mahaprabhu's advent was to taste his own prem. And what he's giving to the conditioned souls is this opportunity for Raganuga Bhakti. This is what's being described in this confidential reasons for the Lord's appearance in this 4th chapter. Text 19. Amaketaye bhakta bhajaye bhavaye tare se bhava bhaje e more svabhave. Translation. In whatever transcendental mellow the devotee worships me, I reciprocate with him. That is my natural behavior. Purport. The Lord, by his inherent nature, reveals himself before his devotees according to their inherent devotional service. The Vrindavan pastimes demonstrated that although generally people worship God with reverence, the Lord is more pleased when a devotee thinks of him as his pet son, personal friend, or most dear fiancé, and renders service unto him with such natural affection. The Lord becomes a subordinate object of love in such transcendental relationships. Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada could not externally propagate these teachings significantly. That wasn't his mission. His mission was to just bring the wayward Western mentality just to God initially, and to give God a name, Krishna, and to establish the principles of Dharma, amongst the Western populace. This was a massive mission that he accomplished brilliantly. So these more esoteric teachings, which he's only kept in his books, because he knew the devotees would read his books in the future when they were more mature and ready to hear these confidential reasons. He knew that. But externally, during his 11 years of preaching on the planet, from 66 to 77, 10 years, 11 years perhaps, then he was just straightening the Western practices in a very like Vaidhi-marg way. So understand it. It's simple. Surely a sensitive, intelligent person can understand this. Such pure love of Godhead is unadulterated by any tinge of superfluous, non-devotional desires, and is not mixed with any sort of fruitive action or empiric philosophical speculation. We said at the very beginning of this chapter, even a child can understand these truths. A child means he's not contentious, he's not trying to aggravate, he's not trying to put his own opinion, he's accepting the opinion of the acharyas. It is pure and natural love of Godhead, spontaneously aroused in the absolute stage. This devotional service is executed in a favorable atmosphere, freed from material affection. Means with detachment from material acquisitions, etc. Text 20. Yeyata mam prapadyante tam stataiva brajamyaham mama vartmanu vartante manusya parta sarvashaha. Translation. In whatever way my devotees surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Prita. Purport. In the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna affirms that formerly, some 120 million years before the battle of Kurukshetra, he explained the mystic philosophy of the Gita to the sun god. The message was received through the chain of distinct succession, but in course of time, the chain being broken somehow or other, Lord Krishna again appeared and taught Arjuna the truths of the Bhagavad Gita. At that time, the Lord spoke this verse, 4:11, to his friend Arjuna, that everyone ultimately surrenders to me. Death comes to us all. Whoever you are or think you are, death will still come to us. Text 21 and 22. Mora putra mora saka mora pranapati ebhaveye mora kare shuddha bhakti apanake padamane amare samahina se bhava hai ami tahara adina. Translation. If one cherishes pure loving devotion to me, thinking of me as his son, his friend, or his beloved, regarding himself as great and considering me as equal or inferior, I become subordinate to him. This is like revolutionary. Prior to Mahaprabhu, this was revolutionary to think like this. Purport. In the Caitanya Caritamrta, 3 kinds of devotional service are described, namely bhakti, ordinary devotional service, Shuddha Bhakti, pure devotional service, and Vidha Bhakti, mixed devotional service. When devotional service is executed with some material purpose, involving fruitive activities, mental speculations, or mystic yoga, it is called mixed or adulterated devotional service. We can call it sakam karma, or we can call it arop siddha bhakti, or sangha siddha bhakti even. This is mixed. Pure bhakti is swarup siddha bhakti. Besides bhakti yoga, the Bhagavad Gita also describes karma yoga, jnana yoga, and dhyana yoga. Yoga means linking with the Supreme, which is possible only through devotion. Yeyata mam prapadyante tam stataiva prajamya. Fruitive activities ending in devotional service, philosophical speculation, ending in devotional service, and the practice of mysticism, ending in devotional service, are known respectively as Karma Yoga, Gyan Yoga, and Dhyan Yoga. So these are three different types of yogas, but if they culminate in devotional service, they can be successful in their practice. But such devotional service is adulterated by the three kinds of material activities. Yes, it's not pure in its initial stage, but it can become pure by the practicing of it. For those grossly engaged in identifying the body as the self, pious activity or karma yoga is recommended. For those who identify the mind with the self, philosophical speculation or Gyan Yoga is recommended. This is the path of mukti or liberation. But devotees standing on the platform, on the spiritual platform, have no need for such material conceptions of adulterated devotion. We don't need to mix it. Adulterated devotional service does not directly aim for love of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, service performed strictly in conformity with the revealed scriptures is better than such Vidha Bhakti, because it is free from all kinds of material contamination. It is executed in Krishna consciousness solely to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If pure devotion is the focus of our practice, I'm already by nature devoted to Krishna, but I've forgotten that internal devotion. My natural devotion has become covered over by the extent of my material desires. I'm looking to break through this cloud of illusion that I am the enjoyer. Rather, I want to render service to that supreme enjoyer. That service is the symptom of love, we've said so many times. And by performing service, what's that? Tesham satatam yuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mamupayadite. That by constant service to the Lord, one can understand me. Those who are spontaneously devoted to the Lord and have no aim for material gain are called attracted devotees. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada is writing in the most simple language for simple people like us. They are spontaneously attracted to the service of the Lord, and they follow in the footsteps of self-realized souls. They must follow in the footsteps of self-realized souls. We must seek and pray for those self-realized souls so that we can perceive them and follow them carefully. Their pure devotion, Shuddha Bhakti, manifested from pure love of Godhead, surpasses the regulative principles of the authoritative scriptures. Sometimes having loving ecstasy transcends regulative principles. Such ecstasy, however, is completely on the spiritual platform and cannot be imitated. Don't think to imitate. Don't go that route. That route is void, empty, meaningless. It's diving straight back into the material world to try and imitate these high stages. The regulative principles help ordinary devotees rise to the stage of perfect love of God. The sages have created, have manifested, have revealed these regulative principles to support our progress in devotional service to the Lord. It's from them that we owe a great sense of gratitude. They've revealed these regulative principles, and the acharyas emphasize these principles, particularly Rupa Goswami, initially in our line and all the way down. Pure love for Krishna is the perfection of pure devotion, and pure devotional service is identical with spontaneous devotional service. Pure devotional service. Someone asked me the other day the meaning of spontaneous. So here it is. Pure devotional service is identical with spontaneous devotional. That means freed from karma and gyan. Anya bilashita sunyam jnana karmadi anavritam. This verse describes what is pure bhakti, what is swarup siddha bhakti. Anukulyena Krishna anushilam bhakti uttama. the topmost bhakti. Flawless execution of regulative principles is exhibited in the Vaikuntha planets. Don't spend your time just trying to perform flawless regulative principles. You're going to cut the spontaneous nature of the soul out. By strictly executing these principles, one can be elevated to the Vaikuntha planets, but spontaneous, pure, loving service is found in Krishna Loka alone. And this is what Mahaprabhu has come to bestow. He's come to take us to Krishna Loka, or Goloka Vrindavan. He's come to show us that Krishna land by his own example, his own immersion in Braja Ras. This is why he's come. He hasn't come to take us to Vaikuntha. Advaita Acharya can take us to Vaikuntha. But Krishna himself, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he can take us beyond Vaikuntha. Text 23. Mai bhaktir hi bhutanam. Maya bhaktir hi bhutanam amritavya kalpate drishyayad asinmat sneho bhavatinam mad apanaha. Translation. Devotional service rendered to me by the living beings revives their eternal life. My dear damsels of Braj, your affection for me is your good fortune, for it is the only means by which you have obtained my favor. Now Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is diving right into Vrindavan Dham. With this verse, I'll read the purport. Pure devotional service is represented in the activities of the residents of Brajabhumi, Vrindavan. During a solar eclipse, the Lord came from Dwarka and met the inhabitants of Vrindavan at Samanta Panchaka. The meeting was intensely painful for the damsels of Brajabhumi because Lord Krishna had apparently left them to reside in Dwarka. But the Lord obligingly acknowledged the pure devotional service of the damsels of Braj by speaking this verse. This is from the 82nd chapter of the 10th canto. I'll read a couple more verses. This is the principle. Why are these verses being described? Why is this description going to be given? Because this is going to be explained as the real, internal, confidential reason for Mahaprabhu's advent was to give the jiva these truths. Mata more putra bhave karine bandhana atihina jnane kara lalana palana. Mother sometimes binds me as her son. She nourishes and protects me, thinking me utterly helpless. Krishna is Sarvagya and Mugdata. He's all-knowing, and yet he doesn't know anything simultaneously. In Vrindavan, we've spoken so many times about the speciality of Vrindavan Dham. And now Krishnadas Kaviraj is going deep into this. Text 25. Sakashuddha sakya kore skande arohana tumi kona bada loka tumi ami sama. My friends climb on my shoulders in pure friendship, saying, what kind of big man are you? You and I are... Excuse me. You and I are equal. Text 26. Priya yadi mana kori koriye bharatasana Veda stuti hoite hare se mura mana. If my beloved consort reproaches me in a sulky mood, that steals my mind from the reverent hymns of the Vedas. I'm going to read this again on next Monday. I'll read these verses again because it's very, very powerful entrance. Actually, we're making a transition here. He's revealed the confidential reasons for Mahaprabhu was to taste Braja Prem, not Vaikuntha Prem, was to taste spontaneous devotional service to him. This is what he's explained. This is what he's come to taste himself. Therefore, he can liberally give it because he's tasting it himself. He's immersed in this mood himself. So how simple for the person who desires or is inspired to actually be attracted to that by looking at his own example in his own life. Now, Srila Krishna's Kaviraj from this 23rd verse. He's bringing us right into Braj, a mood of Braj flavor. What kind of big man are you? I can defeat you. All when Krishna killed Kamsa, all the suckers came onto the arena, Kamsa's arena, and were all dancing as well. And they were all thinking to themselves, well, we could have killed Kamsa. We can defeat Krishna sometimes. He's not just the only good wrestler. We could have done the same thing. So they have these feelings of equality with Krishna. And that will allow this spontaneous love to come. Prabhupada writes, I've mentioned it before in one other essay, that at the beginning of Rai Ramananda Sangbad, actually, he writes that in Vaikuntha there's something of an inferiority complex. We feel dwarfed, we feel small in front of the Lord. How can our real loving nature manifest in that inhibited mood of inferiority? When we feel even superior to the Lord, it's just saying here, we've just read it. When one feels even superior to the Lord, then this is very pleasing to the Lord. He says here, if one cherishes pure loving devotion to me, thinking of me as his son, friend, or his beloved, regarding himself as great and considering me his equal or inferior, I become subordinate to him. I become submissive to that. If he thinks that he's greater than me in this mood. But don't become confused thinking that this has anything to do with a material greatness than God. This is Mayavad, of course. We're not even going that route. We're trying to understand the softness, the sweetness, the speciality of the Lord, wanting this loving relationship, feeling satisfied in this pure loving relationship. This is to inspire us into that loving relationship with the Lord. And what is our own personal loving relationship with the Lord? If we're constantly adhering to the rules and regulations, we're distancing ourselves to some degree. But externally, we have to follow those rules and regulations. But internally, as I said, this rag praviti, vaidi marg, this rag praviti, my focus is on rag. That is my attention. But externally, I'm following diligently the rules and regulations of Shastra. So we'll stop here. But as I said, I'll read again these last couple of verses on Monday. So I hope there's no confusion about my explaining the internal and external, primary and secondary reasons. Yes, my Gurudev explains a little bit differently to Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami for the sake of illuminating the personality of Caitanya Mahaprabhu. That's ultimately showing his internal, highlighting his internal mood or his internal connection with Advaita Acharya. But here in Krishna's Kaviraj, it's explicitly saying that Prem Ras Niryase Korite Ashvara. This is the principal reason. And then Ragmag Bhakti Loke. He's come to give Raganuga Bhakti to the Jiva. These are considered by Krishna's Kaviraj as being the confidential reasons or the internal reasons. So if there's any confusion, think about it and reconcile it. Or you can write and you can ask. Okay, my Dandavat pranams to all of you. Caitanya Caritamrta Adi-lila. This is the most beautiful chapter. This chapter 4 is going to carry us right into Braj. It's going to explain very, very clearly why Mahaprabhu has advented. The previous chapter were the external reasons. Calling of Advaita Acharya, giving the holy name of the Lord. Those are external. The real internal reasons are that he wants to taste that mood of the Ashraya, Radharani. He wants to taste himself. These are the real reasons, the confidential, internal reasons for Mahaprabhu's advent. So now, once we've heard this and we realize this, then our practice, our bhajan, our sadhana, our focus should be very, very much clearer. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Pada Ki Jai, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai, Ananta Kota Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai, Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol, Gau Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhuvevacha, Patitanam Pavanibhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, Namo Namaha. Srila Gurudev ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Krishnas Kaviraj Goswami ki jai, Arupanuga Guru Varga ki jai, Go Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.